come back around and join the police club. Chris, he was a chicken hawk. He was as straight as they come. He, good-looking young guy. Absolutely nice looking guy. And married, and had a child. And he was trying to make some additional money, so he figured that he would go down to Chicken Hawk Alley and he gave a few blowjobs and gave some massages and drank with some guys that he could pick up $400 or $500 a night, which is what he was doing. He took it a little far by virtue of going into Verdella's house, but Verdella, like I said, he could convince almost anybody of anything at any time. He was really capturing. Chris, he thought, well, this is going to be a moneymaker. This guy's got a brand new car here, but he's driving an old junker now to let everybody know. He lives out in Hyde Park. That was kind of the high rent district, basically, in 1988. So as he's driving up, he's thinking, boy, I'm going to cash in on this deal. In a different manner, that's what happened. But Chris was, before that, he'd made quite a bit of money doing what I suggested there. He was providing for his family. Nobody knew what it is that he did in the evening time whatsoever. He was great socializer and a great dad. Very supportive of his child and of his wife, too. This was just a means for him to go out, like a call girl, married call girl, going out and making money. I don't suggest that that's appropriate at all, but it doesn't make him a monster. And so Chris and I got close during the case. I mean, terrible things happened. When I met Chris that afternoon, or that morning rather, I saw this young man that's naked, and he had ligature marks around his wrists, around his ankles, a dog collar around his neck, a leash, feces on his body, the smell of urine on him, etc. It was very demoralizing. And he had Drano shot in his vocal cords. His voice almost to his vocal cords, never to the side. And putting in a variety of Clorox and lye soap into his eyes so he couldn't see. I felt badly for him, regardless of what he was there for. He certainly didn't deserve this or anything close to it. So I was assigned to Chris, along with other duties. And Chris's psychological, there were waxing and waning that occurred with him, as one would expect. And I had dealt with a lot of victims of sex crimes before, but not very many men. So got tuned up by MOXA, and the best way to handle that in regard to the BAU, in regard to victims, male victims, so we called him right away and got a lot of knowledge on how to communicate with him. He didn't want to talk with any strings. He locked on to me and he says, you're going to tell me. You find out what it is that I need from me, and I'll go along with it, man, because I trust you. And I gave him several reasons to trust him throughout the investigation. Chris initially didn't want to face Verdella at all. He didn't want to have anything to do with him. But it became pretty important at one point for him to face his accuser in a way that he had control. So at one point during the investigation and Verdella being charged, I and others, Rick Holtzlaw, the prosecutor, and I, and from the prosecutor's office, Rick was assigned along with me to basically babysit Chris Chrysler and befriend him as well. A lot of things happened. Chris went off the deep end, and we had to bring in professional help. He shared this with me, so I'm able to share it with you. And he said if it helps people in the future, share the story. So I'm not violating anything by HIPAA or anything of that nature. Someone up there in the back would hold hypnotized. So I'm just addressing that for you. But Chris, he eventually came around, got stabilized. He went ghost for about 5 days. And then that really challenged our expertise in investigation to find him. I mean, it really did. And we found him a long ways away from here. We found him. Brought him back. Not against his will. Brought him back. Della was speaking for the first time in court, requiring to tell what it is that he had done to Chris on the first plea agreement. Chris didn't want to be in the building at all. He said, oh man, I don't know. This guy that did all this to you, you really want to let him win? You really want to do that? Chris, I knew that he needed this. I knew it in my core. And Holzblatt felt the same way. So we gave him an opportunity. He says, well, we can get you not in the courtroom, but we can get you in a room that's off to the side that has a window in regard to sex crime victims, young girls and women, to be able to see their accuser and not be able to be direct one-on-one. So we started to walk out the door, saying, man, if you want to stay here, that's okay. So you come around. So we walked across the street and went over there, and he was shaking. He was shaking. I would have been too. And he got up in that room and he listened. And for some reason or other, the volume, gosh, I don't know how that happened. The volume went down to where he couldn't hear so well, but the door was open just a little bit. And amazingly, Chris started moving towards the door so he could hear a little bit better. And then that volume went down a little bit more, and he got a little closer to the door, got a little closer to the door, so I turned it down a little more. The door was finally wide open. And Chris bolstered up and walked right out to the center aisle. And he pointed at me. You. It's fantastic. Broke stride completely. He started shaking on the stand. And then Chris said, I win. I win. Turned around and walked out. Great.
I'm Lindsay. I'm born and raised in Kansas City. And I was curious, obviously I didn't learn about this as a small child, but not terribly appropriate. But this is a case that a lot of people in Kansas City aren't even aware of, let alone nationally. And it's, he was certainly pulled up in after the survivor, he confessed, there's all this evidence. I was wondering if you just had any theories as to why Bob Rodella never made these same kind of headlines or have the same level of infamy as your John Wayne Gacy and your Jeffrey Dahmer and those sorts of people who, live on in infamy unlike him.
In terms of politics in Kansas City, even though Kansas City is not the largest city in the nation, the political crowds that were in effect in 1988 had connections all the way to the White House. And they also had connections with Knight Ritter, which owned the Kansas City Star. Now, if you want to draw a lot of attention to your city as a result of being, that's the place where Bob Rodella killed people off. It is an anomaly. You stated very well. It's an anomaly for the story to have not gotten the headlines that it did, but there's a reason why it didn't. Okay?
My name is Erin. So I'm not from Kansas City originally, so I used to live in Virginia. I got to the part where it talks about hurting things and these people's needs, and I just gave up and said that was too much.
Yes.
So, I wasn't going to ask this. Did Bob have the same unknown for all of his victims, or was there a difference depending on the person? What was some of them his notes on what he did?
Okay. In his torture logs, because he started out with a young man in '84, and we don't believe there was anybody before that, just to answer that question. He experimented, and he did more dastardly, awful things to more people as he progressed in his crimes. Some of them didn't even come to mind until after he found out, well, and he know where the bush was. What shall I do next? So, his creativity and his intelligence in both electricity and in regard to chemicals, and he did a fair amount of research in the area of psychology and fear and terrorism. So those books are very prevalent in his reading library. And a lot of dollars. So it wasn't specific as far as we can tell. We noticed that as he increased, apparently he would get bored with what he was doing before, and he had a unique nuance, something new, something different. Just to keep him from, if you wrote the word bored, and then he'd write, pipe on the hands. Pipe on the hands meant I'm bored, so I'm going to go read the guy's hands for the point of the broken. There were other times that he wrote bored, and he would go penetrate the individual directly from behind. Not that he hadn't done it before, but he did it a little different this time. With another object attached to himself and so forth, causing the individual to bleed rectally and tremendous affection. There were other things that he did too that probably aren't necessary to detail out unless we hear about that. But sky was the limit as far as Robert Berdella. If he had the ability, and he had a lot of equipment around there, both electric, mechanical, pneumatic. So let your mind travel, imagination.
I think we're never sleeping again.
Trophies from his victims?
Oh, he did. He kept teeth, and he kept skulls, and he kept femoral bones.
For his shop that was in Westport Flea Market, how long after his arrest did it take for it to just completely shut down, or did it shut down right away as soon as he was taken in?
He advanced his power of attorney to an executor, and they kept that baby humming for a while. They kept it open. Now, we had to investigate, obviously. We went there and we looked at everything that was inside the place, and we held on to it for about 2 months. Just a little under 2 months. So after that was released, he already had in mind that he still could need to make some money, so he had somebody to keep the store open. And armed with the information that just because I've been arrested, you don't want to discriminate against me and the people that are associated with my business. And he threatened me that it was more free market stores and file a discrimination suit, and he probably would. He knew that.
Right, we have a question. Hello.
Hi.
They do all these things sober. Because you know how Jeffrey Dahmer had to get blackout drunk in order to kill people, or he would always say that I don't remember, all I remember is drinking a lot, and then next thing I know he's back dead. So were there any indications that he was an alcoholic, or a drug addict, or was he just a complete sadistic asshole?
Yeah, that's the latter here. He never drank during any of it. As a matter of fact, alert was a big word. It was written on several of the pages. He wanted to be alert, so his research and development could be accurate. He wasn't working at all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lacey.
Lacey?
I was also born and raised in Kansas City, and while this is not a childhood topic, I happened to tour his house with my mother when I was a very young child. I don't know how she managed that, but she was definitely criminal justice, and so I'm just curious because you said that there were things that your investigation team found after the police investigation, and so I'm kind of curious between the gap of like when the police investigation closed and when you re-entered the house or once the house was moved, what kind of
far as dismantling any portion of his house, we didn't do that at the time. But I had the, I won't say luxury, but I had the luxury of tearing that house down, board by board, brick by brick with my people. And so that allowed some things to be exposed that would not have normally been exposed. And one of them was a huge timber. It was oak, and it was the main support board that went underneath the torture chamber. And for whatever reason, at one point, we don't know if it was Robert that did it or not, but in blue paint on the bottom side of this board, and the house was built almost 40 years prior to this, so it probably wasn't done at the time that the house was built. And underneath it in blue ink were, "These are my friends." Right underneath what would have been the torture chamber there. That's one. The other is the house was constructed, guys, if you don't know, it's a 3-story house. And as you come in the front door, to turn to the right is a living room. And then if you go back further to the east is a nice dining room. And the ceilings in the place were not concrete, they were 9.5 feet, so it's pretty spacious. Coming to the left, you go to the north, and the same floor, you go to the kitchen. You turn to the right, you go back to the pantry area, the area where the meat was. Came back into the kitchen, and made a left, there was a waiter's stairwell, if you will. It came up and reached the main stairwell to come up to the second floor. So there were 2 different ways to get up to the mezzanine to get up to the second floor. So when we were tearing the house down, a lot of different things occurred while we were tearing the house down. There were people in the north that had rented the house, that were practicing witches, husband and wife, and very, very well acquainted with one of the strongest covens in the St. Joseph City area. More stories about that. So at any rate, and the individual on the south was a photographer. And we told him anytime he wants to shoot any pictures when we tear down the house, he's welcome to do it. From his window, that was only about 20 feet away from the house, so we could come out and do it. So when we were tearing the house down, we not only found this board, but in the stairwell ascending from the mezzanine up to the second floor, when we took off the backing wood that you look up and see, that's on the back side of the stairs, when we took it down, there was a baby gate, a wooden baby gate. It was broken, and it had an impression on it. The impression that it had on it was about the size of Renella's shoe. There was a break right at the top of the gate. So we wondered, why would there be a baby gate? What possibly could that mean? Because we hadn't found the information out at that point. Earlier on, there was a little bit of information about him hating his mom, but the house that he lived in up in Ohio wasn't a 3rd-story house. So I and my partner during the demolition, we thought there's one room that Verdella enjoyed going into more than anything else. And this was his introspection room, and it had nothing to do with the murders at all. So if you go up to the second floor and then go to the 3rd floor, here's this room. And Black Sabbath was the LP in vinyl that was on top of the turntable on the left. There were all kinds of fluorescent type posters and black light posters, etc. that were posted up above. And this seemed to be the place that we really, really enjoyed. So along with this baby gate, there was a piece of white paper that had tape around it. So we opened up the white paper and we looked at it, and it said, "Freedom from the bitch." So we ascended to the 3rd floor, and I wondered if this was his way of burying the eventing that had been occurring with his mom. And the baby gate, we found the hinges on it, it looked like it had been mismanufactured and the hinges weren't in the normal places that would be on it. So as we were scraping away all of the stain, we found where this gate had been attached across that doorway. And as a result of another piece of paper that we found in the corner, shoved down by the furnace. So the speculation is, and this is what I believe occurred, I believe at some point he installed this gate as a symbol of him being held in the fashion that he had emotionally by his mom, and that he had finally, because there was a letter that would have been during the time that he was at this house, and I believe that that final letter where he said, I love you and I'm free, I believe that that was when he went up and he kicked that gate that was installed for the purpose of giving him some resolve of stepping over from here I'm held hostage, and in this room I'm not held hostage. And so, afterwards, I took a measurement on the gate, went back down, and got a hold of the property room to find out if it fit the impression that we had made as issue. It was an exact match. I did not. As a matter of fact, Mr. Cordell did particularly care for me. And he gave me a huge compliment. A huge compliment. That compliment was that one of the actual formal stipulations for the time that he was going to be interrogated, that they must be able to prove to him and his attorney that Detective Hurn must be 5 nautical miles away from. Yeah, I made an impression on that.
I'm just curious, if the first victim happened to stay, last victim happened to stay, how close were you? And secondly, once he was caught, psychologically, did they ever come up with an evaluation for his condition? And then thirdly, I'm trying, did you ever go after anyone that may have supplied the drugs that he used, or did you find him on his own off the street? Because he was smart. You had already said 160 or
167.
so he knew he was doing it.
And really quick, we have about 10 minutes left, so who's in line is who we're going to have time for questions, okay?
We weren't close at all. It was the missing person report that had been generated in regard to Hal within several years earlier. We've done the best that we could to determine it. Now, Paul Hal continued. He continued to make contact on a frequent basis with the missing person to try and to get some motivation. He wanted us to check his trash, illegal without a search warrant unless it's out on the curb. And Paul was dutifully doing that whenever Bradella would go to work. He would trash him and trash him every single week. So we knew he was doing it, and nothing was coming out of it. So we didn't know. We weren't close at all. We did not know that Robert A. Bradella was a serial murderer. I don't think anybody had except Bob. And as far as psychological, he was evaluated, and I could put all the major terms in mind, but the bottom line was that he was a sadist, that he was looking for a very specific spiritual foundation to support everything that he was doing. That he was not a masochist in the slightest. He didn't want any pain coming towards him whatsoever. That he was both defiant at a juvenile level and at medium mean level and as an adult level. And that he was defiant of authority, although he was peculating. He was telling people that he supported it, and on the other side of it, kind of like the same thing with regard to his mother. Very deceitful, and no one knew anything about it. As far as them putting him into a specific cookie-cutter box, 3 different psychologists and 2 psychiatrists admitted that they did not know how to appropriately classify him. And one of them was one that we approached her that had given an opinion in regard to John Wayne Gacy, Killer Clown. And he said that this guy was so unique that he did not feel confident to make an evaluation as psychologist. What was the third? I don't remember the third part. What was it? Drug. There were a bunch of them around, I'll tell you. Yeah, we took some action. The DEA had already been looking at a veterinarian, already dealt with a case regarding him, regarding some other things. And because Burdella was so adamant about giving medication appropriately to his dogs, he built a rapport with his veterinarian down in the West Highlands. And he could get the ACE, he could get the ketamine, he could get whatever it is that he needed from him at an extremely discounted rate. And Bob would trade, barter and trade, with some of his antiquities. This guy was very much into Tibetan history, so he traded out some things with him. They figured out what the approximate exchange rate was, and they went with it. But I think DEA did end up busting the veterinarian, so that's where he got the drugs from.
I'm Skyler.
Hi.
My first question,
Always be the one, yeah.
yeah, that's okay. Then you keep saying his research and development, like about these logs. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what was his research that he was doing this for?
He indicated that he was a member of a very special group. Imagine that. And that if he was ever arrested, that perhaps his torture logs would provide the necessary psychological freedom for other individuals interested in murder. That was his research. Very twisted. I might add here, if I may. There's a reason why Bob and I didn't get along very well. We put a plan together in the very beginning. Once we got on the phone with Quantico and said, we got this thing, we got to make a case against this guy in the next 20 hours. It wasn't that we told them we didn't know what we were doing, but they knew damn well we didn't know what we were doing. So they were very helpful. So they gave us the general scenario to deal with a suspect who you're going to try to break down very quickly. Try to get some more information in your probable cause. We had enough. We didn't know it at that point. While we were doing our thing, they were continuing to do piggyback warrants, additional warrants, and getting more information, but we didn't know what was going to come out of that. So we wanted to interrogate him. And he had not said anything about wanting an insurance. So here's what we did. In a period of 5 hours, we contacted our maintenance department and had them make a plaque that said the Burdella Task Force. Put it right on the wall of the area that we were going to go talk to. We had a gal that was a spouse to a police officer that made a velvet runner, a maroon velvet runner for a table to go down the middle of a very nice wooden conference table over the traffic unit to where we could start putting all the information, not the information, but pictures, his antiquities, everything that you could think of that would provide great adulation for this individual, because they said there's no question about him that the guy has a pride and an instinct about him that will not quit. In addition to that, we ended up having 47 names of detectives that were on this board over here. There was only 11 of us, and we had 47 names. All these detectives were assigned to this case. Now, we picked names that were unique. We were told that in any of his writings, whatever letters he particularly used in regard to specific words, and they gave us the frequency of what those would occur, we created names that started with words that appeared to be the words that he enjoyed the most, that gave him the most comfort. especially in his letters to his mom. That's how we came up with these unique names. From 11 on, we just did that all the way through. So we had those, and boy, we had a gal who could print phenomenally. And she, I mean, this wasn't any quick hack job up there. She worked over a period of 3 hours getting these names up there where it looked like it had been printed by a printer. To give an absolute high accolade to this guy, you know, high degree of respect. Now, the night before we brought him in the morning of, at the night of his arrest, we were also told early on the telephone, you're going to need to control his diet, you're going to need to control the temperature. It's quite all right because he's already down at the Jackson County Jail, and we made sure that he was in a cell that we could control the temperature in. So we slowly started dropping the temperature on him to get him cold. The idea is to take him down to the point of not breaking him but making him uncomfortable, and then to really, really compliment him and make him feel like he was the hottest stuff that ever walked the earth. And at that point, when he felt so high and mighty, he might be willing to talk about the crimes that he had done. But we wanted to take it a step further. In his writings, he indicated that he could beat a white priest in the Wiccan faith. He had the power to knock down a white priest. So in those hours, once I made telephone contact with a friend who was close to the specific coven that I mentioned earlier. And in the next 3 hours, we had a ring cast. There was a ram head's ring, which I have with me today. And this ring would suggest a white priest and high Wiccan faith, and that the only thing that could ever even begin to approach the integrity and the strength of a high white priest would be a heck-tack witch. Now, Bob tried to find where in the hell he was at in this whole realm of spirituality, so he kind of devised with some of his friends that just black magic wasn't enough. There had to be a power base that could be created. So he figured that he'd take the Star of David, a 6-star, and that he would assign the rotation of the 6-star just a little bit, and then he and all his baloney friends decided that would be the symbol of a heck-tack witch, and that's the only thing that could ever begin to rise to the level of a high white priest. So what we did is we had this plan. We made sure that my chair was 2 inches taller than Berdella's chair was. We made certain that there was a glued inside of my sports jacket pocket. There was a tab inside of there that would allow me to reach inside of my pocket and put that ring on and bring that ring out and show it only for a moment and then put it back inside my pocket. The way this was set up is for him in his flip-flops and his orange outfit shuffling along to come in and be addressed by a sharply dressed, highly professional administrative female assistant saying, "Mr. Burdell, it's good that you're here." And she escorted him up the stairs with us behind him, where he saw Burdella Task Force. And there it was. And as the door opened, the next thing that he'd see is all these detectives that were assigned. Not only assigned, but everything that they were involved in regarding the assignment. Then he would be brought over to a chair. Now my partner and I obviously worked all this out. We had to be on an angle to where Burdella could see me, but not see my partner. So when I did this thing with the ring, that it would be like, my partner has no idea that I'm a high priest, white wicked priest. Just you, jerk. You know I can control you. So that's what happened, and at the right moment where we felt it was most appropriate, I just leaned forward and curved to where my partner wouldn't be able to have eye contact with Burdella, and I reached down in my pocket, and I put that ring on, and I brought it back up when he was just about to say something, and I said, and I put it right up on my nose, and I said, "But we know how this is going to go." His jugular on both sides of his neck started pounding hard. His eyes immediately dilated. Peripheral vision I was able to see that his feet are arching in those flip-flops all the way up. He's tightening in his chair, his arms go down. He even holds himself underneath his knees on both sides. That was the time for us to strike. So I did. And we came so close. So very, very close. He was starting to let down, the walls came down, and he was leaning forward and leaning forward. And then his eyes were no longer dilated. They didn't come back to normal. They went through normal and went to pinpoint. And he gave that look like, I'm pissed. It wasn't so much that he figured the thing out at that point. He just realized how close he came to getting himself up. So I leaned forward with a smile and he said, the word you'll always hate to hear, I want an attorney. Cool. Shut it down. That was it. Couldn't say anything more to him, couldn't continue to work with him, etc. But it came close. It did. But he got control of himself. So as a result of doing that to him, whether he believed that I was or wasn't, if he believed that I was, he sure as hell didn't want me anywhere close to the interrogation. If he didn't believe it, he thought that I put a trick on him, and obviously he'd be ticked off, pissed, not wanting anywhere around. At any rate, that was one of the stipulations, and that's the highest compliment that I could receive. Son of a bitch.
Yes, so I'm sorry, but we have time for one more?
Two more.
Just one more. Can we? Okay, alright. Oh, there is a movie after this.
We gotta clean.
Next thing.
Talk fast.
So clean after yourselves.
Yeah, pick us.
Alright, okay. So the two more? The last two, then we'll try and.
Yes.
Yeah, just the two that are in line right now. Okay.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned before Ray's house, you had some like kids with them.
Yes.
And when I told my dad tonight that I was coming, he said the one thing that always bothered him was that he felt like he had some kind of partner that was helping take the pictures. Was that something that ever bothered you guys or that you guys considered?
No. As a matter of fact, each of the photographs that he took would resonate a distance from his hand to his shoulder. There was never any indication that he came in really, really close to him. And if you move the camera forward, we were able to tell him. If he was doing it from afar, Chris Bryson, at least, in all of the photographs that were taken of him, and more were taken of him than any other individual. It was all Riddell. Riddell indicated that he didn't want to include anybody else. He didn't trust anybody else. So there's no indication in any of the interviews that we did that anyone knew what was going on or that there was any assistance whatsoever. And it's my opinion that there wasn't anybody else, that he was so narcissistic in regard to the manner in which he approached the situation that he wasn't going to let anybody else have any fun with him and the people that he was dealing with. Thank you.
My name's John.
Hi,
You
John.
stated earlier that you would work with Dunbar after all this was done. I have a website that deals in true crime stuff, and you're what I guess conditioned to sell some real stuff. When I got there, it was stuff from Dunbar's property. It included murder weapons and chainsaws, the whole 9 yards, which Chris Bryson was in. How would Dunbar have gotten that from the police station to his personal property in Harrisonville out there? Do you know?
Yeah, well, I know what the claims were, we'll put it that way. Dunbar wasn't this guy, Dunbar wanted to know what it was like to rob a bank when he was younger, when he was in the military, so he walked in and he robbed the bank just to figure out what was happening. That he was in prison as a felon. And that was just something that was part of it. He hadn't thought. So, as far as Dunbar had a way of starting rumors through other individuals that were involved in his organization. And then he would confirm or deny and give a nod type thing. That chainsaw, the murder weapon, he never did acquire that chainsaw. That chainsaw, I know where that chainsaw went when it was disposed of, and it happened. He never got that. The things that that Dunbar was able to acquire, I know all the things that he acquired because I was there when they did he did purchase his toothbrush, and he did he did purchase an umbrella, and he purchased a few other items, and he purchased the house and all the contents. But when we went through the house, he detailed what it was that he wanted out of the house, and they weren't very important things. They were wall picture hangings, etc., cleaning, cleaning solvents and things of that nature. They thought that maybe had been used on Chris Bryson. But there wasn't very much that Berdella wanted out of the house. He just wanted to know every time we came across something that could bring him some praise on press, you have to tell him about it, let him know, and then he'd decide whether or not he wanted to do a news flip on it. Not a weapon one that was used. So here's what was used if you want to know. Well, the chainsaw was used. It was used downstairs. He realized that put too much blood output in so many different areas, so he didn't ever use that again. Because he was a chef, he had very, very sharp professional knives, and that's what he used to dismember the bodies. He knew precisely where to go, because he had several books on human anatomy. And with him being a chef as well, and food culture, he knew what he needed to do. Berdella, when buying the knives that were clearly the professional knives, those were recovered and taken by the police department. They were never released to anybody. But there were some rumors that some of the knives that were taken out of the house later, and those rumors started, I'm sure, by Del Dunmeyer, leaking a little bit of information and having it come back around again. But there were no murder weapons that were in the house when we went through it, or during the time that the auction occurred. Nothing like that was ever seen.
This one took place after Dunbar died or something
I
else.
see. Well, I'm sure there's all kinds of claims about the estate of Dunbar related to Robert Berdella, but I don't think any of it's true. But it doesn't sound like it. Well, thanks for your question.